Hey guys, Cannonball Cats Hunting on a Budget, Texas, here with you again, and having one final segment on the Ruger American Gen 2 6mm ARC. And I wanted to have this last video segment. This is more going to be an informational video. I made some changes to the rifle since the last video you'd seen, which included the range report. I had one on taking it out of the factory stock, throwing it into the Sharps Brothers Heat Seeker chassis. Then I had the next video segment on the range report. And this is the third video segment on some final changes that I've made to the Gen 2. And I'm just going to hold it up right here so you can see it. And you're going to see, obviously, that is not that is not the original factory stock that has been changed to again, and that is not the Heat Seeker chassis. The Sharps Brothers Heat Seeker chassis is right here, boxed up, ready to go out to the highest bidder, where I have it for sale. But nothing wrong with that chassis, guys. Nothing wrong with it at all. Just as I reviewed it further and as I've had it a little bit longer, it just wasn't for me. I'm a huge chassis fan, but my philosophy of use for this rifle is just not going to be that suits having that type of chassis with it. It's going to be more suited for this. It's going to be more of a hunting rifle. This is not much lighter than that chassis in any way, but it's still going to be more suited for a hunting rifle and having it in a blind with me, and a little bit more of some, how can I say, more typical characteristics of a hunting rifle by going to this Magpul hunter stock, but still kind of giving you characteristics of a chassis type system as well. That's my opinion, you know. Real quick, let's just show you real fast. You can see this guy is empty. There's no magazine in there. We are safe to handle, safe to operate. But I want to show you a couple of things with this that I've seen online, and then I'm learning already just in my own use. Good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a couple things on here that are pretty good. There's a couple things on here that are bad, and there's at least one thing on here that's really ugly. And I'm gonna make sure you guys know about this, for those of you that are interested in these, and for those of you that have them maybe don't know, I'm gonna make sure you do know. And not looking to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm gonna speak the facts. I bought this with my own money, this hunter stock, and so I'm gonna tell you how it is. Nobody sent it to me to try out, and they're not asking me to praise it. And I'm gonna give it some praise where it needs it, and I'm gonna give it an ass whooping where it needs that too. So anyhow, let's get into it. So there's a couple things. Number one that I want to show you, I want to show you the trigger pull on this, and I did some work to it and to the trigger. This is the factory trigger, of course, and it is right now sitting right at 2 pounds with where I have it adjusted to. But go ahead and cut from this right quick and jump over to the other segment and show you what I did with it before I final mounted it within this chassis. So we'll be right back. Okay, I think I've got it where I want it here. Let's go ahead and get a couple pulls and see how consistent we are. 2 pounds, 1.8 ounces. Keep in mind, guys, this is a hunting rifle, and I don't want the trigger super light. 2 pounds, 2.6 ounces. The goal here is to have a good usable hunting trigger that's not so light that 1 pound, 14.2 ounces. 3 pulls gives us an average of 2 pounds, 0.9 ounces. That's exactly where I want it to be. And for hunting, that's going to make a good, fun target gun, but it's going to also make it a great hunter. And there you go. So that's the factory spring. And utilization of the factory spring. And again, I'll show you how many coils. That is what was taken out. And I used a little coil removal tool, which is one of these. A lot of people use dikes or such type tools. I use these. These are made for, this is hardened, made for cutting some springs. It deforms a little bit of the spring when you cut it out, but it leaves the other spring alone. So probably right there, that's about 3 coils overall that I took out. Your mileage may vary, but there you go. So let me get this thing back together, and then we'll look at the final product. All right, catch you back in a bit. All right, so I hope you guys got a little bit out of that. You know, I had originally seen or had somebody notify me that they were using a spring from an actual ballpoint pen. Let me, sorry to step up in the camera here, but, and I had done that myself. I had put this spring in there. It's hard to see, but I had put this spring in here, and this is actually from one of these pens. Hang on, let me grab the pen real quick. It's actually from one of these pens right here. And I was surprised. The spring did a heck of a job when I put it in. I wasn't sure if I was going to trust it or not. The thing about it is the safeties are all maintained on the firearm. That's just the spring that is used for the tension on the trigger pull for firing. And I was really surprised. The problem I had with it is I didn't really, I've got some light triggers in there, but I didn't really want this gun that light. And the tightest I could, or the highest I could really get that trigger pull to, with a fully engaged compression of that spring, was right about 1 pound 9 ounces. Again, some of you guys may love that. I love that too. I've got some guns that are lighter than that, but this is going to be a hunting firearm, and I don't want it quite that light. It's just the way I like to set things up. My hunting rifles, though I do go target shoot with my hunting rifles, I want to have around that 2 pound mark, sometimes up to 2.5 maybe at most. And then if they're going to be a straight target rifle, yeah, having it somewhere in that 1 to 1.5 pound, 1 3/4 pound, I like that. I'm not a big fan of going under a pound. That's super light. I've had some firearms that I've done that with, and had some Trigger Tech diamond triggers that I've had set down as low as about 8 ounces. And it's just so feather light, but I don't need anything that light. That's just me, all right? Your mileage may vary as well. But anyhow, back to this. So that trigger is actually really nice with what I've done with it. You know, pulling it right around that 2 pound mark, it's really crisp. There's really not much creep to it, if any, that I can really feel for a hunting trigger. It's pretty damn good. Got a little bit of over travel, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So I'm going to stick with it for a while. I may end up going to a Timney at some point, but I want to wait until they have that trigger out for a little bit longer for the Gen 2 models. And that way we can, I don't want to be the beta tester, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, all right, so let's talk about a couple of the other things. So there are a couple of other items on here that I've seen. I've seen complaints on bolt removal with these Magpul stocks. Look, bolt removal is not an issue on this firearm. I've seen a few people say you have to take this off. You really don't have to. Let's see if I can do this on camera here. So, you know, when your bolt comes back, the only thing you really have to worry about is your scope intrusion. But in my case, my handle is back far enough where the scope is not going to affect it. So when you take the bolt out on Rugers, and this is what they show you, if you actually buy a Ruger American Hunter in the 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor, that heavy barrel model that comes with the Magpul stock, they'll actually show you how to take it out in that regard. So that way it's done the same way here. You're basically going to push your lever on the back side to release the bolt. You're going to bring this back just a hair, and then you just spin it over. Okay, once you spin it over, it takes this bottom section, puts a slope here, and then you just pull it right out. There's no problem doing that. So, there's a lot of people that are complaining and saying that's a problem with the Magpul stock. It's not a problem. It just takes that one little extra step. And if that's too much of a big deal for you, then don't buy the Magpul stock. That's it. Otherwise, it's no big deal. To put it back in, it's the same story. You put it in upside down, right? You take it, you swing it over this way, you engage it into the slot on the back side here, and then it goes into place, and everything's wonderful. And then you just do your normal function check, lock, safety on, middle position, bolt unlock, safety on, doesn't shoot, forward position, bolt unlock, boom, gun goes off, right? So everything's wonderful. To me, not a big deal, pretty simplistic feature. So the stock looks great. Stock's pretty stiff. It mounts great. I think it's going to be a great shooter. That's the good. Let's get to the bad. The bad is that you see where I mounted this quick disconnect or quick detach for a sling, because there's no sling mounts up forward here on the stock, and that's no big deal. You know that going in, so you can't call that good, bad, or otherwise. But I use a quick disconnect here. I've still got to install one back here in the back, which is going to go in place right here, but I just haven't got that piece yet. Anyhow, when I first went to install this, I don't know if you can see, I went for this middle slot here. And if you can look really closely, you'll see right there and right there, those two indentions. And basically, these are M-lock slots, okay? And basically what happened is the M-locks, when I installed this, were in place just as they're supposed to, and they just wouldn't tighten. And when I say they wouldn't tighten, I mean they wouldn't tighten. I mean, they felt quite loose as I was snugging them down with the hex. So much so that it just seemed odd to me. I thought it was kind of a crazy thing. So I took them off, and I could see that plastic was soft enough, at least in this section. And I don't know if it's throughout. It could be a manufacturing process, but at least right here in this slot, it was soft enough where it just indented. And I wouldn't trust putting the sling on this firearm with that and being worried about this thing pulling out, right? And the gun dropping and damaging the firearm. I wouldn't trust that. So what I went ahead and did is I took the stock apart, which you can do. They're easy to break down. There's a little trick to snapping them out, but they're very easy to break down. I took the stock apart, and I went inside here. I mounted this piece here with the M-locks, and then I went inside, and these are all separate sections. They're closed off from each other, but they're open in the webbing inside here. So I went in here and I plugged this off, and I epoxied the M-locks in, and epoxied in that entire section right there. So it doesn't really add any weight to that section, but what it did is it solidified that mount to the stock itself. So the only way this mount could essentially come out is if that entire epoxy section and this whole side just breaks out of this. So now I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's going to be fine. Of course, it's permanent. Keep that in mind. When you start epoxying stuff, it becomes permanent. So remember that. The bottom pick rail that I put on here, I got these guys turned properly and profiled properly on the underside, and got this one good and tight. When I say good and tight, again, M-lock tight. It's not super tight, and didn't have any problems with the plastic or the stock on this portion here on getting those in. So it's kind of an oddity there, but still bad. So got some goods, but we got a bad. Let's talk about another thing. The magazine, and I had read that some of these on some posts that there were some feeding issues. I haven't experienced that. I have done some feeding with it already to test it, but what I have experienced, which is not good, is that when you insert the box magazine, the magazine, where this catches and this lock is probably just a minuscule too high, it seems to me, because the magazine runs high in the well. And what that does is that when you go to open the bolt like that, it is extremely rough and tight because it's rubbing the metal feed lips on the magazines. And I have multiple magazines. It does it on all of them, and it rubs that magazine. So I'm gonna have to look at how I can clean that up a little bit there. It's already made an impact on the bolt. Not that it hurts anything. It's causing some rubbing on there. I'll show you that here. In fact, let me take the bolt out and I'll show you. See if I can make that. Look how easy that bolt comes out. Let me see. Let me set that right there. See if I can get this on screen. So on camera, let me see. See if I can get it here for you to be able to see. There they are. See all those marks? See all these marks right here? That is from the feed lips. And that is just me operating the bolt from the feed lips. Now, that's because those feed lips sit so high. And it's actually, it's actually created a pretty good, where I can feel its surface scratching, but I can feel it on the bolt. And I don't think it's going to affect anything usage-wise, but it's gonna be an issue for me because I just don't like it. And so it's not a deal breaker. For me, it's not a deal breaker at all. For me, it's just gonna be maybe polishing those feed ramps and seeing what I can do to just make everything fit a little better. I tried putting some spacers down in here and here on this mag wheel, on this bottom metal. I tried that already. So before you make any suggestions, just know, and I mean, we're talking about the smallest amount of movement. And at that point, it cleaned it up. It made it very smooth. The magazine still fed in nicely. The problem was that little bit, just that little bit created such that it wouldn't feed properly into the chamber. It wouldn't properly chamber around, and it would even miss the rounds, catching the rounds coming forward with the bolt occasionally, not every time. And then that little bit with that angle going into the chamber was causing a feeding issue. When it's in this position here, which is the factory position, and just like it's built, it feeds without problem. It feeds without issues. It's just that rub on those magazines on the top lips. So I'm going to see what I can do to clean that up. Maybe polish those lips a little bit. I'll polish this bolt a little bit and see if that's gonna fix anything. And if I have to do a little modifying of one of the feed lips on one of the mags, and it works and is reliable, this may just be the rifle that houses that mag only. Then all the other mags all utilizing my ARs and such. And I say that because this is the Stanag or AR mag type system. So with this 6-arc and this Ruger Ranch. So anyway, folks, this you're not going to see any more on this firearm. I think I've beat this one to death with this being the third video now on it. But I just wanted to give you some insight to the Magpul Hunter American stock, and let you know that it's a really nice setup and looks wonderful. I think it's going to be a great shooter. I love how it feels. It's very comfortable, very ergonomic, and I think it's going to be a great shooter nonetheless. Still, just got a few of them little items to fix. And Magpul, you need to include these cheek risers. You don't need to make people pay extra for that. And then this magazine issue where mine feeds good, but the mag sits high. There's been discussions about this that I'm seeing in forums for about the last 3 years. So get your act together. You're selling this thing for $300. Get your act together. This little piece of plastic here is $70 by itself, and do something about it and get it right for all your users and all your loyal customers. And with that, folks, and get this plastic strengthened up here. Hell, if you got to put a little bracket in there and cut it out and have it mounted and formed inside, do what you got to do. Make this thing the best you can make it for your users and for your loyal customers. And if you got to add a few dollars to it, hell, I'd have spent $350 for this thing for it to be perfect, right? I didn't spend $300 on it. I spent under $275, but I'd have spent an extra $100 for this to be perfect because I want my gear to operate perfectly. And that's what the expectation is, generally speaking, when we buy something that we feel is supposed to be of quality manufacture. So keep that in mind, Magpul. Get your stuff together and get your stuff right, and you'll maintain loyal customers for a good period, if not forever. Anyway, folks, that's what I got. I appreciate you tuning in. We're going to shoot some deer with this one this year, and but anyhow, you guys have a great weekend. I love you, folks. As always, God bless America. God bless you. And God bless Texas. Cannonball Cats hunting on a budget, Texas. Taking off for the day. You guys take care. Bye-bye now.